We have not just one storm, two storms, maybe even three if a little bit of a low pressure system forms down here coming to the United States over the next week or so. Some more snow could be possible with these storms, but one of the things that sticks out to me the most is the chances for some more widespread severe weather. Really, from the southern plains all the way down into the southeast, we could see some organized severe weather, the chances for tornadoes, hail, and also damaging winds. Let's go ahead and break down what's possible coming over the next week for the United States. Before we do, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as it does help us reach more people in the path of these storms. Essentially, what's going to be happening over the next couple of days going into next week is that we have this polar jet and polar air kind of sitting over the northern United States right now. We're going to have multiple low pressure systems kind of work their way from the Pacific all the way across the United States, bringing in some moisture to kind of feed these storms. Wherever these storms can butt into some cooler air, they're going to be producing some snow, mainly on the northern side of those storms. And on the southern side, we could be seeing some chances for some severe weather. But I really do think that our biggest risk is going to be down here in this region, potentially a little bit further up to the north, depending on how far north that moisture really goes. In order to really understand what's going to happen across the United States, we need to start over here with the western United States. We're going to have a couple of low pressure systems move in, bringing some rain and wind to these areas over here near California, Oregon, and Washington. He's going to pile up rain for a couple of days, starting today, going into tomorrow as well. We have another larger storm system that's going to be coming through the United States, and that's going to push into the northern United States over there near Seattle and also Portland, going all the way down into San Francisco. But that first little storm that came through has brought enough warm air to kind of spin up another storm to our east. And this is the reason why we could see maybe even some ice problems up here north of Lincoln and Des Moines in Iowa and Nebraska, with some snow further up to the north. All this pink color right here, that is some freezing rain. Once that hits the surface, we would expect that to turn into ice. Now, we're not expecting a whole lot of accumulation, but definitely be careful as you're driving around on the 14th going into work. Not only that, we're also going to have some rain and perhaps a couple of thunderstorms here on the southern side of this storm. We're not talking about anything super organized, but definitely keep an eye on it if you got any outdoor plans, as you know, rain's never fun when you're like barbecuing or anything like that. But as I continue to push this further into the 14th, you can see that freezing rain and those icing conditions could spread up into northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. Looks like a little bit more ice accumulation would be possible up here, so definitely watch out for that. Then eventually we're going to see this thing transfer into a little bit more snow over here in northeastern Iowa going into southern Wisconsin, but it's really not going to be too heavy of a snowfall if we get anything at all. This storm is just barely nudging into that colder air to the north, and it's not going to be really successful in producing too much snowfall, but a lot of rain is to come. A little interesting thing here about Michigan is that this storm pretty much completely skips Michigan, brings rain further into the Ohio Valley into the southeast, and then eventually brings some snow up here to the northeast, potentially some more snow over there for northeastern Pennsylvania going into New York and New England as we go into the 16th at 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m. on the 16th. Eventually, this storm's going to come out of our hair, but let's kind of bring this back just a little bit. So right around when this storm starts to happen, we have yet another storm bringing in some decent rain and snowfall, and that's on the 14th. All right, we already kind of talked about this, but this is a separate little low pressure further to the south. This is eventually going to eject off to the north and east, bringing some more of that Pacific moisture down into the southern United States. So watch this. As I push this forward, it kind of seems like it disappears, but trust me, it's still there. It's just producing a lot of snow over here for parts of Oregon, Idaho, even going into parts of Wyoming as well. And as I push this forward, you can see eventually this thing starts to organize into a little bit more of an organized system. A little bit of snow up there in the north, not a whole lot, just a little bit of scant snowfall there. But this is the 16th at around 3 a.m. early morning. And you can see there's a lot of precipitation down here. But one of the things that the models are starting to catch on to here is that we are starting to get a little bit of a surge when this storm comes through of some moisture and some instability that can make it all the way up into Texas, going up into Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas, southern Missouri, and then eventually that instability pushes off to the east. But then as we get into around the nighttime hours of the 16th, that instability really wanes and then tries to come back yet again. So just the fact that this instability is able to come back into the United States is something that we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on for other storms that could come through in the future. But a little area of severe weather is definitely going to be possible, really from this all the way down into here, I believe. We're not going to really expect too much to the south, just given the fact that our low pressure system is going to be way up to the north. But one of the things that could enhance this severe weather potential would be a little bit of a short wave. So let's kind of go over and look at the jet stream really quick. So this is our 500 millibar winds, basically showing just how strong the winds are above our heads. This helps contribute to spin and tornadoes sometimes. But our first little system that comes in is actually more organized than this, is less organized, sorry, than this little wave after it. And as you can see, as we go into the 16th here, this is when that severe weather is going to try to organize. You can see we definitely have a little bit of a trough coming in. Look at that big U shape. That's what we call a trough. We got winds coming down to the south here and up to the north out in front of here, and a low pressure system would be back in here. But if we get a little short wave kind of form here, that would enhance the flow on this southeastern side, and that could try to, organize a little bit more of a tornado threat there and potentially a little bit more of a severe weather threat. But as of right now, big question marks on whether or not that's actually going to happen. It kind of seems like there's something there, maybe a little bit of a shortwave trough right there. And we've got to watch out for some severe weather and potentially some tornadoes also going up in like this as we go into the evening hours of the 16th. Now, in terms of Alaska, we're going to be seeing this another little low pressure system kind of spin up, move up to the north. Oops, sorry, went out a little bit too far there. All right, let's bring it back. Okay, so now you can see a little bit of rain and snow over there south of Anchorage. And then eventually we're going to have some of these low pressure systems kind of spin up to your south and west. None of those are really going to be able to make it up to maybe a little bit of rain south and west of Anchorage. But then eventually we're going to have a low pressure system going into the 18th, potentially come up to the north and into the shore here south of Anchorage. And then maybe another one after that. So definitely got to watch out for some rain and maybe some more snow up there. Looks like the temperatures are also going to really cool down, especially for most of Alaska. I mean, we're going to be in the negatives all the way across the state here. And that's really going to start to pour in on the 15th, where this is going to be really prevalent at around 9 a.m. And then eventually it'll try to warm up during the day, but that's going to come right back in as we move into the 20th. I mean, look at that. So a long stretch here of what it appears to be some very cold and potentially dangerous temperatures. I know you guys are pretty much used to this by now, but definitely a cool down is coming for Alaska. In terms of Hawaii, definitely jealous about what you guys are getting here. It looks like you guys are going to consistently stay in the 60s and 70s. Not really seeing many big changes. You can see some cooler air tries to make it down there as we go into the 17th. Nothing too crazy. Maybe a little bit of a cold front coming in. Yeah, and with some potential of rain to come with that as we go into the 18th. So you do have to keep an eye out for that. A little bit far out, so a lot of things can change, but that could be some cooler temperatures and perhaps a couple of shots of rain, maybe a thunderstorm or two as that moves through on the 18th going into the 19th. Now, in terms of the temperatures across the United States, it's cold out there. I can attest to that. Not super cold in the southeast, but definitely cold enough to notice. But man, up here in the Great Lakes region, the northern plains going into the Ohio Valley in Illinois, we are seeing some pretty cold temperatures. But eventually, that's going to start to warm up as that little system that could bring some of that ice up into Iowa, snow there into Wisconsin. It's going to be bringing some warmer air to the north, and that's eventually going to push into the Ohio Valley with some 50s possible on the southern portion. And then eventually that second system comes in, bringing that warm air even farther to the north. We're going to be talking about potentially Michigan getting up into those 50-degree temperatures, and then that's eventually going to try to move up into the northeast. Check this out. Potentially over here near Bangor, it could get close to 50 degrees. In my opinion, this is a welcome warm up here in the southeast. That second system really comes in and brings a lot of decent warm air, potentially getting up into the 70s and 60s here in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and a lot of Florida's actually in the 80s as well. Those 60s and 70s spread up into South Carolina and North Carolina, trying to get up there in Virginia, but might not quite make it up there. The 60s and 70s return over here for Texas as well. We'll kind of go pretty far out in the future here and see if we see any bigger cool downs along the way. Yeah, it looks like another cool down. Man, you definitely make an argument that the weather patterns are pretty stuck here. I mean, how many cold intrusions have we had in this area? Potentially another little area of cold air to watch out for at 3 a.m. on the 19th, but, still big question marks there. We're pretty far out from that. But some more cooler air, maybe potentially some more organized snowstorms could be possible as we go into the second half of December. We'll have to see about that. Overall, though, it seems like the weather is going to be pretty quiet over the next week. Definitely some chances for some severe weather. Couple shots of snow. Got to watch out for those icy conditions conditions and those windy conditions with the rain and the snow over in the west as well. But it just seems like we're going to have a big deluge of rain chances and some small areas of snow in the future. Wow. Pay no attention to that. That's way out in the future. That's over there by December. So is that one. I just like to let this go. Usually I don't take this long on the outro. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of something here and there. Nothing too crazy. We're not talking about anything super impactful this week. So take this time to relax and enjoy some of the nicer, less intense weather. It's kind of been like that for a while. I mean, this last snowstorm really wasn't too impactful except for that lake effect snow. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate it big time. If you haven't hit that like or subscribe button, please consider it. It does help out the channel a lot. And I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.